Welcome to Assistant on Air, where we have conversations with people who build for Google Assistant. I'm Dan, and I'll be your host today. I'm a developer advocate for Actions on Google. Today, we'll be chatting with Eliza, who is a Google developer expert for Google Assistant, and we'll be talking all about app actions. Thank you for coming in. So, tell me a little bit about yourself and your role as a GDE.
I'm an Android developer actually, and I very recently joined the GD family. I've been an organizer for the GDGs and the Women Tech Makers, and I fell quite in love with the Actions on Google. As a developer, it's just a very different mindset that you have with the conversational design vs the graphic user experience. So this is why I started developing more, and I entered the GD family.
Can you explain a little bit, just from a high level, what are app actions, and why would developers want to specifically integrate a voice action with a mobile phone application?
So the app actions is the way how you can connect the Android platform with the Actions on Google or the Google Assistant platform. And how it works is that you just put a bit of the code inside your Android application, and it's basically like a schema that the Google Assistant can understand and say like, okay, so this is what the user needs. And the cool thing with that is that it doesn't just match intents and fulfills that intent, but you can also say like, okay, so book me a ride for San Francisco airport at 4 p.m. And instead of going to the Android application and making all the steps like where are you going, what time is the pickup, which ride share do you want, and all of the steps, which are like 7-8 steps, then you can just reduce it to just telling your Google Assistant where you want to go and which app to use, and they will just app this application, and the only thing that you have to do is just confirm.
So it really deep links directly with all of the context of what they just said to some state in your application. What would be an example of an action that deep links into an Android app?
All right, so let's say that you want to buy something, and you say like, okay, I want to buy headphones from my headphone application. So this is just going to deep link and search already for the headphones for you and show you like a list of headphones where you can select. If you have a specific one, they will just open this one, and then you can just pay and continue with the checkout.
With Actions on Google today, right, it's a lot of it is voice-based, right? But with app actions, it's about integrating a mobile phone application with that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Exactly. I was very excited when they announced it, because I think that both of the platforms, first of all, they have some millions and billions of users, and they're so powerful, both of them. So combining, like being able to combine your applications to both of those platforms, I think that it has endless possibilities.
And what would you say, with some of the different developers that you work with, are some common understandings or considerations that they should have when developing an action for Google?
If it's just for a conversation design, you have to make sure that it can actually have a conversation design. So for an app, it's more easy, like the user can just click on the buttons. But when you have a conversation, then you have to go a step back and say like, would I have a conversation with a person about this? So I think that this is like the first step for getting an action on Google.
That makes a lot of sense. And so if a developer today has a Android application, what are some of those top gotchas when trying to develop their first action, voice action for Google Assistant?
Do you mean by having the app actions as there, or just having like separately the Android application or the actions on Google?
Really both, right? What are some of those biggest lessons learned and things to watch out for as a developer who might have both and for the first time getting into actions on Google?
Okay, as a developer, for me, the most difficult part was just to rewire my brain not to thinking with an if and else. I think that was the most difficult part for me. It still is sometimes. Like I really cannot figure out how to do stuff, and I'm like, okay, so when I talk, how do I actually do that? And it's not trivial to actually find out. It's the first thing that we learn to do, and yet it's so hard to do. So as a developer, I think the most important thing is to just go back to the whiteboard and just say like, okay, this is not an if and else. I really have to think about how I would talk if that was a person and not a machine. Like if I was talking directly to the user, how would I reach out to them?
That makes a lot of sense. So what are some resources that our viewers can go and look at to really learn more about app actions and some of the things that you talked about?
So for Android developers, it's a bit easier because we are already very familiar with the deep linking in the applications, and it's really basically the same thing that you have to do. It's just some extra steps. There is a really nice code lab that you can actually follow to find out more about the app actions. There is documentation that you can just follow as well and just check, okay, what is the schema that I have to put in my application should look like, and what are some built-in intents that I can use to make my life easier. And then besides this, there are some great talks and YouTube videos and like resources from RGDs and also from Googlers that you can just refer to and move forward.
Thank you so much, Eliza, for coming on today.
Thanks, Dad. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. We hope you liked today's show. If you want to hear the full interview, check out Assistant on Air podcast on your favorite podcast platform. I've been Dan. Chat with you next time.